Hello dear readers and subscribers. Welcome to another video with some practical career advice for artists, and in today's video I would like to talk about 5 very inspirational and influential artists, but that aren't always the ideal example for artists today. We're going to discuss 5 mistakes, 5 misconceptions or attitudes that can be very harmful for your career. We start with Vincent van Gogh. Vincent van Gogh is a very popular story when it comes to his career, as he predominantly became very well established and recognized after his passing. As a result, many artists today think that it is not possible to see success during your lifetime. And this is of course not true. The majority of artists who enter the canon of art history were very successful during their lifetime. But there are always a few exceptions, and most often these are very sensational stories. For instance, the story of Vincent van Gogh, but also, for instance, the story of Hilma af Klint, who predominantly became famous only after her passing when analyzing the history of abstraction from a retrospective point of view. Or what about Carmen Herrera, for instance, who is also an example of an artist who only achieved recognition very late in her life. These stories are of course very exciting ones and are therefore very loud. However, they are not the way it works. They are not the rule, but the exception. These stories can give people a glimpse of hope for success, but also of despair, that it is like playing the lottery, and that is not the case. Up next we have Wolfgang Tillmans, and especially for photographers or people working on paper, very often the work of Tillmans is being used as an excuse not to invest in frames to present your work in the best way possible. Tillmans wants to integrate the image directly in the wall by not using a frame and really focusing on the image an sich. However, this is also an exception. It's perhaps one of the only artists who has also been doing this in a very consistent and conceptual manner. And once more, this is an exception and not the rule, because in most cases your art, works on paper or photography, will benefit by using high-end frames, a topic that I would like to cover in one of our future videos. So feel free to stay tuned and subscribe to our channel. Up next we have the work of Anselm Kiefer, and about a very particular aspect of his work: the scale, the monumentality of his works. And I could have selected another artist, but Kiefer is predominantly known for these massive works in his massive studio that are being exhibited in massive gallery spaces. And the misconception that arises is that only the size seems to matter, that you can only become famous by going big. However, the fact that Kiefer is going big now is actually the effect and not the cause of his success. Back in the day, he used to work on a much smaller scale and built a track record of sales and exhibitions with smaller works that were being collected by private collectors. But now, when these artists achieve a certain status and that they no longer sell to private collectors, they want to sell it predominantly to museum institutions, which of course have larger spaces and larger storage rooms. So if you think that you can make it by simply going big, I'm afraid you'll end up being very disappointed. You could start creating very large works like Kiefer, but I can guarantee you that this will not result in gallery success, because it will not result in sales. Bigger pieces for new or emerging artists are always very difficult to sell because they are at a high price and they take a lot of space to store, to ship, or to find a collector with walls that are high enough. As a result, don't let this misconception fool you. Going big is not what initiates success. It is a result of success. Another artist that I would like to discuss is the oeuvre of Gerhard Richter, who has this incredible diversity when it comes to his painting styles. He has created photorealist paintings, portraits, candles, apples, etc. He has also created large abstract works, small ones, and some more conceptual paintings, such as his color charts. When seeing this diversity in his work today, one would think that it is not important to have any consistency in your work, because Gerhard Richter became one of the most established painters and his body of work is so diverse. However, the development of his work, if you would track back through time and kind of see his development, it was a very natural progress. And there is strong conceptual consistency here from painting to painting, as he is really discovering painting and constantly revisiting it in new manners. This is what one would call consistent inconsistency, a very conscious inconsistency, or a very conscious exploration. And if you have a closer look to the artists who reached the highest level, one notices that all these top-notch artists in the art world have actually a very diverse body of works over time. However, consistency is important, and if you want to learn more about how this works, this balance of consistency, while also having enough diversity and variety in your work to remain exciting for the galleries, for your audience, then I highly recommend you watching our video on style and consistency explained next. To conclude, I also have to address Banksy. Banksy is anonymous and he uses this alias, Banksy. And ever since Banksy, I see numerous artists who are also thinking that they have to use an alias, that they have to reinvent a new name, their artist name. This is something that I strongly advise against unless you are an artist duo or there is a specific reason why one would use an alias. I have seen in the past that people who use an alias, that there is this confusion between their artist name and then their personal name, and this can result in some problems on how they have to refer to you in texts, but also online and in track records at exhibitions. For instance, recently I talked with an artist who had 2 different profiles on artifacts because the people he have worked with have used different names for him, because it is not very clear whether to use the personal name or the artist name. So when there is no clear incentive to use an artist name, simply use your person name. That being said, having addressed these 5 topics with these 5 artists, I hope you feel empowered and informed to continue your career as an artist. And if you're looking for more industry-approved career advice for artists, I highly recommend you to have a look at our overview page, Advice for Artists at contemporaryartissue.com, with numerous free articles and webinars, but also useful career tools and services. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Feel free to watch our video on style and consistency explained next. Support us on Patreon and please consider subscribing to stay posted for more contemporary art. Bye.